In this video, we're looking at a magenta ink by KWZ Maroon. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to all of the maroon inks here on the channel, so if you'd like more, you can look at them there. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample, 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we're not getting it, but the smear test says you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pelican M1000 with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. Now, let's take a look at the second writing sample done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 19 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it, and the smear test, you probably could not recover it if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is on the bottom, very immediately, this very light purple that is forming a line and really staying in place. Now we get this magenta that's pushing its way up, getting much darker at the top. It's really pushing away, but we have a bright red across the top. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before putting it into water. And the most noticeable difference is that purpley line across the bottom, showing that it might be a little bit of a resistant tone here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. The medium is much darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 21 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we don't get it, and the smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I don't use this ink in a note-taking situation because of the amount of blowout that is occurring. I just don't feel safe doing that. I want to protect the information. Water is reactivating and lifting it, and you see one little spot where some of the white of the paper is starting to show through. Pen flush does everything that water does, just a little bit faster. You see more of the white of the paper coming through. It did only take water to get this out of the pen. The 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the paper, but discoloring it some. The next writing sample is done on life paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice peppering of shading going on here. Quick gets a darker, lighter, darker, brown goes darker to lighter. The is very dark compared to over, 12 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, although we get a light peppering in the extra fine. The smear test says you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. KWZ's Maroon has a viscosity of 2.23, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity and all that stuff's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now, let's look at Levenger paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, light peppering of shading like the K in quick, the R in brown, the Z in lazy, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, though the extra fine does get a light peppering. And the smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. KWZ's Maroon has an average dry time of 19 seconds, making it normal. The last writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 8 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the stub, which is just much darker than the extra fine. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and there was none. And the smear test, you could definitely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like KWZ's Maroon, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a nice gray ink from Atramentis, their Fog Grey, because this is a pretty decent color that you don't want to take the attention away from. If you're interested in a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those videos. So what do I think of KWZ's Maroon? This is a really deep maroon. It's so nice. There's a lot of tone variation by pen and only a slight peppering of shading. For those of us that don't care for red, this is a really good alternative. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? A very wet, medium or broad pen really puts down a dark, beautiful tone that I certainly prefer, but if you really want shading, then go with a drier pen like a dry fine or dry medium, and that's going to help bring out some of the shading if that's what you'd prefer on this ink. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video we're going to take a look at Rhodia and Klinger's Lipsfeger Schwarz. I know I kill the names here.